What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. Bye, singing dog. Bye, goal.
I pronounce you
Bye,
husband.
wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Blog Talk Radio. Welcome to your Partner in Success Radio, hosted by serial entrepreneur Denise Griffiths. Denise offers a full menu of on-the-web services for all your online needs. Denise and her team of virtual assistants can help manage your online business, including social media channels, blogs, web portals, and more. YourOfficeOnTheWeb.com is a comprehensive resource to help you combine the power of your brand, your connections, and innovative ideas to develop a full online strategy that can guarantee a strong, profitable impact on your business.
Good morning and welcome to your Partner in Success Radio. I'm your host, Denise Griffiths, and each week I'm really honored to share the microphone with the most interesting business leaders. Now, these are people who have wonderful stories to share, and they're going to freely share their journeys, their business wisdom, their tips, and their actionable advice. In short, they are willing to help us shorten our learning curve as we navigate the know, like, and trust economy. In fact, my guests are so compelling and so insightful that this podcast was recently written up on Inc.com as one of the best business podcasts you need to be listening to now, and it has also been, one of those days, and has also been mentioned on Entrepreneur.com and MSNBC. Our topic today is one that really excites me, and that is how to easily position yourself as an authority by writing a best-selling book with Rob Kosberg. Now, Rob is going to share his personal story from early success in the corporate world and small business ownership to significant business failures in 2008, and then writing a book and reestablishing himself as a highly successful entrepreneur. And he's going to tell you how you can do it as well. So about our guest, Rob is a #1 best-selling author. He is the founder of Bestseller Publishing and has been featured on ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, and the Wall Street Journal. Rob has spoken to and taught thousands of entrepreneurs, coaches, and consultants how to stop hunting for clients and instead position themselves as the hunted. I like that. Through his trademarked publish, promote, and profit system, he helps his clients create their own professional best-selling book and then teaches them how to use that book to grow their income via speaking engagements, free publicity, and lead generation strategies. He also used his own best-selling book and these strategies to build his last company to over $1 million in income in less than 15 months. Rob, good morning. Welcome to your Partner in Success. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks, Denise. Great to be with you. And wow, what an introduction. Almost as though I wrote that myself, huh?
No. Well, I tweaked it a bit. I did my homework.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. No,
but I read it good,
funny.
right?
Great to be. You did, and you know what? It's all true. So there you go.
Oh, good. All the coughing and sniffling, aside, still we made it through. And the odd thing was I wasn't coughing or sniffling until about 10 minutes ago. It's like, really?
Nice.
Of course,
perfect timing.
This is going to happen. Exactly. But listen, and we were chatting in the green room before we jump into the interview. We were chatting in the green room, and I realized kind of belatedly that one of my next couple of guests who wrote a book that's just a phenomenal book, and I'll get you to tell our audience about that, but they're using your company, and I'm telling you, they are everywhere. In fact, they were supposed to be on my show a couple of weeks ago, and my internet went down. I hate Cox Communications, for anybody who's listening. They have an entire division, I think, that just shudders when they hear my voice. But it went down, and we had to, go ahead and say, okay, we're going to rebook. Then I realized that you were keeping them on the road so much that we can't rebook for 2 more weeks. So I blame you, but it's a great problem for them to have.
It is. It's a great problem. They're great guys. They wrote a book called Bankroll Your Mind, and they're coaches and consultants, and which is a high percentage of our clients. We work with coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs of all kinds. And, the whole goal, as you stated in the title of the show, is to help people to stop hunting for clients, which can be a real roller coaster. It's feast or famine. One month you hunt and find some clients, and then you serve them, and the next month, you're back to zero. And what we want to do is kind of turn that whole model on its head and get people hunting for you, which, as with Rich and Lawrence, that's really beginning to happen. They've been on radio and TV all over the country, which is pretty cool.
Oh, they have. I mean, I have just had the best time following them around. So we're probably going to do an interview that is on a Monday or Tuesday instead of my regular Friday slot. That's how bad I want them on. So I hunted them down. Just so you know, your strategy works. I saw their book. Yeah, I'm a voracious reader, and I'm always looking for free Kindle books. Always. I have about 6,000 of them. It's pathetic.
Nice.
And I've read a large percentage of them, by the way. And I found this book and I went, oh, my gosh. And I went through it, and I reached out to Rich Perry on Facebook and said, look, I've got your book. I would love to interview you. And it just kind of went from there. And then I started really following along and realized that you were behind this huge success of theirs. Well, they are too, obviously. They're doing the work, but, I mean, they're obviously using your company and using it to huge advantage. So I really want our audience to understand that writing a book and getting it out there is really one of the best business builders that you can do these days, and I would love for you to talk about that.
Yeah, it is. Amazon has been amazing, right? Not only is it, going to be probably the most successful or one of the most successful companies in the world, and I mean you can get stuff delivered to your door in hours, not even days anymore. But they transformed the publishing industry, and on the good side, what they've done is they've lowered the bar and kind of opened up this traffic source for anybody that wants to publish. Now, on the bad side, what they've done is they've lowered the bar and opened up this traffic source for anyone that wants to publish. So, in a good sense, you don't need a traditional publishing deal anymore, and in fact, that dinosaur is about extinct. But in a bad way, you're now competing against more noise in the marketplace. So you have to have your ducks in a row, and you have to do things properly. But when you do, and even it's something that can be engineered. It's a process that we do multiple times a week for various clients that join Bestseller Publishing. So, it works, no question about it.
Well, and you're right. I mean, there are so many books out there, and I will look at some of these books that people have put up. You can tell they didn't use an editor. They barely used spell check. That's a big fingernails on the chalkboard for me. It's like, oh my God, fix that. But then you find other books that you're just like, I will recommend this all day long. So, but like you say, then you've got the book. Now what? You've got to get it out there. You have to, have publicity for it. You need to get people reading it, reviewing it. And I think that's maybe where a lot of people haven't quite thought out what the process is. They've got the book in them. I'm writing one right now.
Nice.
But what's the next step? I mean, really, what is the next step after that? What I would love for you to do, Rob, is kind of tell your story so people understand where you're coming from. And then we can go through what it is that, the advice that you can give budding authors and people who really want to build their business and their online presence with a great book. Yeah,
I'd love to. So, what do you want? Do you want just all the good stuff, or do you want the real juicy bad stuff too?
I want it all. Just give me. It really because when people just go, oh, everything's perfect, everything's roses, and I never had a bad day in my life.
A bunch of lies, right?
You're right. I don't think so. And you have a very compelling story about what happened to you.
Yeah, probably a lot of folks that are listening can relate, at least to certain aspects of it. But I was in the real estate industry and really got into real estate when I was 18 years old. My dad owned a real estate company, and I got my license at 18, started selling real estate really pretty successfully. My second month, I sold 5 homes. I was an 18-year-old kid, so what did I do? I went out and, blew money like it was going out of style, bought a brand new Corvette, all those crazy things. And, I had a pretty successful real estate career right until the time I didn't. And so, early 2000s, I had 3 businesses in the real estate field. I owned a real estate company, I owned a mortgage company, and I also owned a title insurance company, all in South Florida. We were doing over $100 million a year in transactions and, millions of dollars a year in income right up until, the financial crisis. And, most people will remember that. It hit really hard in South Florida. Real estate values dropped as much as 60%. And probably the biggest, most crippling thing for us is that the kind of real estate that we were selling and financing was more luxury real estate. So it was non-conforming, which means that these were not government loans. And if anyone was in real estate at that time, they know for about a 2-year period, the only kind of loans that were being closed and funded, the only homes that were being sold were either all cash deals or they were government loans like FHA, VA, et cetera. So this business, in 2006 that did, $100 million a year in transactions went to zero in 2008. And so, I'm in my early 40s and kind of licking my wounds and wondering, what am I going to do now? 3 kids in private school, the whole thing. And it was recommended to me by actually more than one person that, and I wanted to pivot to a new industry, financial services, and it was recommended I write a book to reposition myself as an authority in this new space and also use it to generate leads. And I'd really never done that before, never thought about doing it before, but something just rang true with me to do that. And so I did. I made a lot of mistakes, and I can go into the minutiae of some of that, but, I hired a ghostwriter. That went really poorly. I come to find out, years later why that went poorly. But, it took me about 18 months to actually get it done because of all the mistakes and to launch it. But when I did, it was an immediate success. I started getting local publicity, radio primarily. I hadn't been on TV at that point. And eventually, within about 6 months, I had my own radio show on terrestrial radio that, was heard eventually nationally. I did 4 hours of live radio a week. And my business just exploded, and the economy was still terrible. This is, late 2009. The economy was still awful. Stock market was down. Lending wasn't happening. But, all of a sudden I was back up to 7 figures a year in personal income. So, and the rest is history, as they say. I mean, since that time, I started Bestseller Publishing. I actually sold my financial services company. And Bestseller Publishing's now done over 300 authors, just like me, coaches, consultants, financial advisors, et cetera, and then help them to replicate the kind of results that I did. So I love it. I love what I do. I'm thankful for what happened almost 10 years ago, but let me tell you, it was rough.
Oh, I know. I hear these stories quite a bit, but there's always, if you're looking for it, that silver lining. I know that sounds silly, but it is true. Things do kind of happen for a reason, I think. I would love to go back to something you said that had me going, what happened? The ghostwriter part. What happened there?
Well, and as I mentioned, I came to find out that I wasn't the only one that experienced this, but, I hired a ghostwriter, and a typical ghostwriter is going to cost you, a minimum of $10,000, if they're decent at all, and as much as $50,000. So, and I didn't spend the $50,000, but I did spend, $10,000 plus. And I went through, not knowing anything about writing a book. I was a total novice, and not knowing anything, I simply did what the ghostwriter told me. She wanted me to put my ideas together for the title, the subtitle, the table of contents. Really didn't help me much at all with that. And then we did a series of interviews where she got my content and asked me questions, and I answered the questions. And as you can tell, I don't mind talking, so that wasn't terribly hard for me to do. And after a few months, we had, hours and hours of interviews. And she said, I think I have enough content. I'm going to go away and write your book. She did. Came back to me with, I think it was 187 pages, which I was like, cool, this is great. I mean, wow. And I started reading it, and, I immediately knew that, this is such a disappointment. The book was well written. The facts were right. Grammar and punctuation, sentence structure, all that stuff was better than I could have done. The problem, and wasn't just my problem, but I've heard it from hundreds of authors since, the problem is that it didn't capture my voice. And it didn't sound like it was from me. It sounded like it was from someone else, right? It didn't have that, that thing that made it personal to me. And so I ended up scrapping the whole thing and rewriting it. Not only lost the money, but I lost 6 months of time, which ended up being even more costly than the money, especially after how much money I started making, with the book. And so that is a very common problem with ghostwriting. And so we actually created an entire process we call hybrid ghostwriting that, effectively captures the voice of our author without the kind of pain that most of them would have to go through to write the book themselves. So I don't come from the traditional publishing world, as I've already said. So this has all been, how do we fix these problems that I had and that others have had in this space.
And I think you said something just really, really important there, that she didn't capture your voice. And that's so important these days. People want to know you. They want to like you. They want to trust you. They want to feel like they know your dog, truly. I mean, if you go on Facebook and you look at me, you're going to know all about my cats. I mean, that's just all there is to it.
Right.
But it brings a level of, it makes you personable when people hear your own voice instead of something kind of dry and, factual. But, people want to know your story. They want to know where you fell down and skinned your knees. They want to know what's in it for them. I mean, there's so many moving parts.
Yeah, 100%. And if you're creating content, you want it to sound like it's coming from you, right?
Right.
Not like it's some dry piece of toast that anybody could have written. And so I've heard that hundreds of times. And unfortunately, traditional ghostwriting just oftentimes, unless you're talking about working with, the ghostwriters who are at the, the peak of their field, which you're going to pay for that. Most ghostwriters, they're good at writing, but they're not necessarily good at capturing the voice. And so that was an issue for us. But, with every issue comes an opportunity, right? So it was an opportunity for us to fix it and help other people to fix it too.
So did you rewrite the book? Did I miss that part? Did you take the book?
Yeah,
okay,
I scrapped
technically brilliant, but it's not me.
Yeah, I scrapped the whole thing.
Okay,
and,
you did
and
say
ended
that.
up writing. It took me another year. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I the reason it took me 18 months was because, I wasted 6 months with the ghostwriter, and then it took me another year to do this on my own, painfully. And this is not a big book. It's like 100 pages. So it was a very difficult process to do that. And obviously, look, it doesn't end there. Hemingway said, writing is easy. You just, cut your veins open and bleed on paper. And so, so many people are like grinding it out, trying to get their book written. And when they finally do, they think they've reached the promised land. And the reality is, no, there's a lot more to do before you're going to experience any real success with your book. So that's just the first part.
So when you're talking with people about writing a book, because, look, I have written several epic first pages. They're blank, but they're epic.
Right.
There's not a word on them. I'm like you. I can talk all day long if I have to, and I can write for other people, and I can do their social media and build their websites. I can speak in their voice until it comes to me, and then I just go, and I choke. What is that all about? Because I know you've got other people that go, I've got a story, I've got stuff, I can't get it out. Now what?
Yeah. Yeah, it's super common, right? I mean, we have a process. Our whole process we call publish, promote, and profit. So those are kind of the three sides of the triangle, right? A triangle of really being successful with your book. The publish piece is everything revolving around the writing and publishing of the book, making it available. And so in the writing part of it, there are several elements that are important. The first element is really knowing who you're writing to and what their fears, frustrations, pains, difficulties, day-to-day challenges are. Because your book isn't so much about you and your stories, not unless your name is Kim Kardashian or Hillary Clinton, right? I mean, people want to read about them because they're already famous. People don't want to read about me because they don't know who I am. So, and I'm dating myself here, but like Zig Ziglar said, people, are listening to WII-FM radio, right? What's in it for me? And so you have to really determine what it is that you're going to write about that your really specific audience is interested in getting help with. And then your stories and your examples and everything that you're sharing that make it personal to you fits within the construct of helping your ideal client. So we help our clients to discover that, do a deep dive on it, and then create a hook from it, a title, a subtitle, a table of contents. So, once that work is done, and that can take several weeks with our clients, we now have like a really clear path to creating the content. Now we can fit the stories in, we can fit the examples from someone's life or case studies or client stories, etc., that make the book come alive. But if someone is just sitting down and trying to bang out content, then, it's like writing a Facebook post or a blog post. Everything's disjointed, and, you can't just put those things together and have a book that most people can't, that's going to really be compelling. So we got to start with first things first, which is, the reader.
And that's great advice, because as a web developer, I'm always telling people, take your ego out of it. This website, your offerings, your services, not about you. It really is about what you can do to help other people. Nobody cares if you have a computer science degree or you have a doctorate in whatever it is. They just care about you relieving their pain points. That's it.
Yeah, that's 100% right. I mean, I teach something called a hierarchy of desire, and at the very, very bottom, it's like a pyramid, and at the very bottom
is that
of the pyramid,
Maslow hierarchy?
It's my own version of Maslow.
Okay.
Right. It's not food, sex, and that kind of thing. It's how you make yourself desirable to your ideal client. And, at the very bottom of that is someone that is a generalist, right? That's whether it's a doctor or a financial services advisor or somebody, any coach or consultant that says, well, I work with business owners. Really? Well, business owners, like any business owner? Yeah, I can help any business owner. That person is a generalist, and they are probably the least desirable when it comes to, people really hunting them down for help. Above that is what I would call a specialist. And you mentioned, people aren't interested in if you have your PhD or your doctorate or that sort of thing. Well, they are slightly more interested in you than they are a generalist. A specialist is somebody that does have a few initials after their name, and that does make them slightly more appealing. But where the real game changer is above that level. That's where you get into the expert, the thought leader, and at the very top of the pyramid, the celebrity. And that's who people will pay the most money to work with directly. And that person may not necessarily be the smartest, even the most educated. They may not even be the best at their field. But if they're a celebrity in their field, meaningful celebrity, I'm not talking about Kardashian-like celebrity, but meaningful celebrity, then, that person is going to be hunted. And so, people will spend a lot of money and time to get themselves a degree or to get themselves a coaching certification. But the reality is people aren't interested in that, as you said. What they're ultimately interested in is themselves. And if you can fix that, and if you position yourself everywhere, like you mentioned about Rich and Lawrence, then eventually you're going to build that thought leadership and celebrity that attracts people to you at any price. That's where it gets really cool.
And again, I think a lot of people don't realize that they know they want a book. They know they've got at least one in them. We all do, I think. And they're like, okay, there it is. It's on Amazon. Woohoo! I'm going to put it up
right.
for $3.99. Then I'm going to put it for 99 cents. Then I'm going to give it away for free. And nothing happens because they haven't built that following. They haven't done the work to drive traffic to that book. So if you would, could you kind of share what some of the steps are, some of the things that people need to be thinking about when they start mapping out, okay, I've got this book in mind, but what am I going to need to budget for in terms of time and cash and assistance? What do they really need for the overall picture?
Yeah, what I tell people is this, because, we get, as many as 50 applications a day where people are answering multiple questions, wanting to work with us. Now, not every day is 50, but, just earlier this week we had a day where we received between 50 and 60 people that filled out full forms to speak to one of our author development coaches here about doing a book. And we always tell people, look, everybody has ultimately two resources to work with. You either have money where you're going to pay an expert to help you to get these things done, and hopefully there's some guarantees in place so that you really know you're getting the result that you're paying for, or you're going to have time, and you're going to have to spend the time to, A, really figure out if it's possible, B, really figure out how to do it, and then C, take the long, hard road of doing it yourself. So can someone do all of this and figure this stuff out themselves? Of course they can. I did, but I'm 10 years down the road of that, right? And so, 10 years down the road and tens of thousands of authors and hundreds of, pretty massive success stories. So, what we tell our clients as far as what you need to do is either A, you need to, continue on this journey and hope that, because many clients we speak to have been wanting to write a book for 10 years. And you can either keep going down that road and, call us in 10 more years, or, you can pay to get the result that you want. And so, the first decision you have to make is, what do I want to do? Do I want to really try to expedite this myself, by paying an expert to do it? And I believe in that. Could I figure out how to work on cars? Sure. I don't, though. My grandparents used to own gas stations. I grew up under the hood, so to speak. But I don't change my own oil. I got no time for that. So the first thing you got to decide is what are you going to do? If you want help, now there are various levels of help that somebody can get, but ultimately, the big question that we ask people is, what's the end goal in mind here? If you have a business that's working at some level, and let's say you have an average client value of $5,000, whatever that is, web development services, financial consulting, as a doctor, whatever it is, then, you only have to attract a few clients to pay for a book to be done and marketed and all of that. And so it's kind of a no-brainer in many cases to have an expert help. And this is probably sounding, quite self-focused, so I don't want it to. But that's what you asked the question. That's what people have to decide. How do I want to do this? Because anyone can do it themselves, just like I did. It's just a journey to do so.
Oh, listen, I completely understand the need to get assistance. There are so many things that I can do as an OBM and as a web developer in my own business that I shouldn't be touching. I should not.
Right.
I shouldn't be doing $20 an hour work when I should be working at $150 an hour. So, we have to make those decisions. So you're not getting any kind of an argument from me.
Yeah. I didn't think so.
No.
And I am telling people, I do want people to know, can they do it? Of course they can. And we have people that come to us that just can't afford, our fees range from, as low as $1,000 for some of our information and instruction to as much as $30,000 for the things that we actually do for them. And, not everybody can afford that, but everybody that has a viable business and, can see. I mean, all you really have to do in your market is look to the people that are at the very height of your industry. And if those people are best-selling authors, then guess what? They engineered it, and so can you. Now, maybe they lucked into it in some cases, but in most cases, believe it or not, people knew what they were doing, and they engineered these things. And that's true for, in leadership, you have guys like John Maxwell, who, used to be a country preacher. In real estate, you have Gary Keller, who, he wrote about in The One Thing, how they decided the one thing that they would do to really grow their real estate company, this is like 15 years ago, was he would write a book. And that book became a bestseller, and Keller Williams is now the number one real estate company in the world, and he's a billionaire. So, if you look to the height, the zenith, the people that are at the very, very top of the industry, and those people are best-selling authors, then guess what? You can do it too. You really can.
Oh, I agree with you. And, I do hear a lot of people say, I just can't afford that. It's kind of a knee-jerk reaction. I just can't afford that. But then after a while, after it's had time to kind of percolate and they've, just gone, I really want this. More than that, I need this for my business. They're going to find a way, aren't they?
Well, people are going to do what people are going to do, right? So, the cool thing is when, and I mean, this may sound self-focused, but, when you're the hunted and you're getting dozens of people to apply to work with you, then you really don't have to hard sell anybody. You're not worried about whether or not one person is going to pay you or become a client. And I mean, that's what we're trying to help our clients to get to, is that place, right? You never want to take on a client that you shouldn't, right? But that happens all the time in business, all the time.
Yep.
Why? Because of the money. And so, it's all about frame and positioning. And when you're being hunted down, it changes everything for you. You can raise your prices. You can pick the best clients to work with. You can really spend the time to make them successful. And so, I want everybody to do it, but you and I both know that that's just not going to happen.
No, but if you do want it, you will find a way, I promise. I always do.
Yeah, I agree.
I always find a way. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you, too, is, a lot of people, Audible is I have a lot of Audible books. Now, I will not buy a fiction book on Audible. When I'm reading a fiction book, I want my imagination to take over. So I just don't go there with Audible. But I do listen to a lot of business books. I'm listening to Mel Robbins' 5-Second Rule right now on Audible.
Cool. Yeah.
What is the importance of having an Audible book, in your opinion, as a companion to your written book?
It is more important than it was. It's not the most important thing, I would say. The most important thing is having the book and then using the book to get media and generate leads. What Audible does is kind of two things, which are important. Audible gives you an additional stream of revenue because lots of people are interested in listening to it rather than reading it. So it gives you an additional stream of revenue, A, and then B, it also gives you a whole new viewership, listenership, potential reader that you didn't have before. And you want to have, as many little tentacles out there as possible, bringing people to you. So it is not the most important thing, but it's, why not do it, right?
Oh, I agree. Yeah. Brendan Bouchard wrote a book called, what is the name of it? I have the hardback
Millionaire
book.
Messenger?
No, it was the one before that. I can't remember it off the top of my head. I should because it's on my bookcase in here. But for some reason, I couldn't get into it as a written book. I have no idea why. I like Brendan. I like his message. I'm on all of his mailing lists. I've taken, one or two of his courses. I could not get into the book. And then one day I went, hang on a second, I have it in Audible. So I turned it on. I was working away, building a website or 2 or 3, whatever I was doing. And I could tell that he was very nervous when he first started narrating the book. And then he hit his stride. And then you could hear the passion in his voice and the nuance. And all of a sudden, I got the book. Now, that's not usual. Normally, I would rather have the book. I want to read it on the Kindle app. I want to have it in my hands. But for some reason, that book got to me on Audible in a way that the physical book didn't. So, I think it's just a good idea to have them all available to you. People learn in different ways is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. No reason not to. I just tell people, let's once the book is done, and the book is successful, becomes a bestseller, then we want to turn our attention away from the book, actually. And now we want to turn our attention to you as the business owner, the client.
Good point.
And now it's all about how to
celebrity.
use the book. Yeah. I mean, it's it's not about. I mean, the book will make sales, and there'll be things that happen with the book kind of automatically and magically, and that's cool. But the real magic is in the working of using the book as a lead generation tool, as a way to get speaking engagements proactively, as a way to get media proactively. That's the magic. That's like where the real money, income and impact, we call it, is made. And so, the audio version of the book is, again, it's something to do, and it's not unimportant, but I would much rather have a client quickly focus on getting return on investment, generating leads, closing sales, getting speaking engagements, and then just pay someone to do an audio version of the book.
That makes sense. I had a client who said, I've got to have an audiobook. He didn't have the Kindle version up, and I said, who is giving you this advice? It just didn't sound right to me. So I'm glad to know that my thinking was not entirely off the mark. I kept saying, I don't think this is right. It doesn't sound right to me.
Do it, certainly. I'm not telling anyone not to, but it's a little like the engine in a car is broken down, and someone is saying, I really want to put new wheels and tires on it. And new wheels and tires will make your car look good. Engine's still broken,
Yeah, as it sits in the driveway.
Why don't we get the engine fixed, and then we can work on the wheels and tires next.
Exactly. Do you have any case studies that you would like to share?
Tons. Probably one of the more recent and exciting to people is I have a client, Shanda Sumter, and she has a good bit of celebrity in her space. She coaches women business owners. She's a great lady. I love Shanda. And we did her book and her launch and her media and all of that a little while back, probably a couple years ago now. And she has been using her book as a free plus shipping offer for lead generation, where if anybody's in the digital space and digital marketing space, you probably know what that is. But if you don't, basically it's where you offer the book for free, but you ask people to pay for shipping. So if this book is online for sale for $24.95, you're offering the book for free, and all they have to do is pay $6.95 for shipping. And some people that are just old school authors would immediately think, oh, that's ridiculous, and I'll never give my book away for free, etc. And of course, that's missing the forest for the trees, because Shanda does over $100,000 a month in income from this one offer. And so we did a case study interview together on how she's doing it. It's actually a fairly common thing right now, because the book is the gateway right into her celebrity and expertise. But then she has, several upsells from there of her programs, her courses, and then ultimately her coaching. So, she has a whole team of coaches and salespeople that are on the telephone, and when someone buys or goes through this free plus shipping funnel, they're offered various other things. And so she's doing over $1 million a year from that. And I actually have a couple of clients that are doing that. So, you've got to put aside I don't want to give my book away, or put aside the whole idea of royalties, because that's like stepping over $100 bills to pick up nickels when you're focused on the wrong thing.
I did have, and I agree with you, and you mentioned something very important about funnels, and it's an important part, I think, of your marketing strategy. So if you wouldn't mind, just explain to the audience what a funnel is if they're not kind of following along with us.
Yeah. Well, you as a web developer, and as doing part of that, certainly know. I mean, basically, a funnel is a series of web pages that take people, through the slide to a result. Initially, a funnel could be anything from the initial offer of some type of free content in exchange for an email address. The funnel that I described is basically a free book in exchange for $6.95, which is then shipped to somebody. The next page of the funnel would be some type of offer of additional, something missing that would be helpful to someone that would be a higher price. In Shanda's case, her first upsell is $97, and I can't remember what she's offering, but she's offering something that is very complimentary to the book. So someone raises their hand and says, yeah, I'm willing to spend $6.95 for this book, and in effect buys it for that price, takes out their credit card. Well, that person is a buyer. They've expressed a great deal of interest right at that moment. So, the next page of the funnel, of the website process, is that upsell for $97. It doesn't end there though, because if someone buys or does not buy that, there's yet another upsell. And in Shanda's case, it's $997 for her sales training program. And then last but not least, she offers a one-on-one coaching call to help people get unstuck. And those coaching calls are certainly helpful to people, but they're also consultative sales calls where, their sales team is coaching and is then offering additional assistance for between $10,000 and $20,000. And someone may say, that's impossible. You can't take someone from a $6.95 sale to a $20,000 program. But Shanda's doing it every month to the tune of $100,000 a month, and we do it as well. So, that's what a funnel does. It basically sorts your most interested people and makes them offers that would be helpful to them, all starting with the book.
Yeah. I see it all the time as well. I build some of those funnels, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
They're great, right? I mean, it's,
They are. And, honestly, when you go into, let's say, a local grocery store, a mom and pop, just for the sake of argument, you're not going to see this in Walmart, I don't think, but you go into a little grocery store and they've got wonderful vine-ripe tomatoes, and you're talking to the guy in the produce section, and you'll say, man, these smell so good. And he'll say, did you see the cucumbers? They're phenomenal. And by the time you leave, you have to invite everybody and their grandmother over for salad.
Right.
I mean, that's an upsell, right?
Sure it is, 100%. And it's not like, there's something swarmy about it. No, I mean, people are saying they're interested in this, and so you're offering complimentary items that, are helpful to folks. And if they don't want it, they don't buy it. If they do, then they click the button.
Exactly. And that leads us back to why writing the book is just really kind of the opening wedge into what it is that you're going to do with it.
Yeah.
My thinking is, and please tell me if I'm way off base on this, that your book probably, just the book itself, is not going to make you rich. You may not even break even for a while. It's all the other things that you do that...
100%.
Yeah, that's like the opening wedge, right? It's not the end result.
I mean, it's so funny. I never hear anyone talk about this, but here's the truth: that the book is a dichotomy. It's, on one hand, it is like the most powerful celebrity building, authority building tool. When you are an author on a subject, it's like, wow, this person really is an expert. That's on one hand. But on the other hand, it is like the cheapest way into your world. $10, $20. That's dirt cheap. So it has to be used in the area that it has the most power. And where is the power? The power is in the authority, the celebrity. The power is not in the $10, right? That's nothing. Now, can you make some money? Sure, and the royalties come. But if you're only interested in royalties, then you're really missing out on the big opportunity.
And I think more and more people are understanding that. They're getting over, as you said, I don't want to give away my book for free. You darn near have to anymore. Or at 99 cents, or Amazon has those 3 free days where your book can get downloaded. That's how I came across, Bankroll Your Mind. That's how I eventually came across you. These things, once you start paying attention, you're like, oh, okay, follow the path. Oh, there's Rob. Okay, now I'm seeing the bigger picture.
Exactly. And Rob doesn't want to sell things for $10. Rob wants to sell things for $10,000 because it's a lot easier to make money selling things for $10,000 than it is for selling things at $10. It just is. And so look, there may be someone on the line that is listening that they just want to write fiction, and you're not going to start a coaching program writing a fiction book, and so royalties are what you're interested in, and I get that, but that's just not our ideal client. With fiction, you can still launch your book and build a following, and all that will work. We've done fiction and children's related books, but with fiction, you have to write volumes of content. You have to continue to write, because again, you're only making a few bucks every time something is purchased. So, for a nonfiction author, for a business owner, the opportunity is much bigger, in my opinion, because now you can speak on stages for $10,000 or $20,000. You can sell your coaching for $10,000 or $20,000 or more, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $100,000. We have clients that are doing that, and the book is, if someone's going to write you a big 5-figure or 6-figure check, believe me, they're going to look at you. Have to look at you as an expert and an authority. Otherwise, they're not going to write a check that big. And so your book is what positions that whole thing.
Oh, I agree. I'm constantly telling my clients, you need to become a subject matter expert if you're not already. Let's get you there.
Yep. Yeah.
And once they grasp that idea, they're like, oh. And then we find out they really already are a subject matter expert somewhere, but they're not really paying attention to it. It's interesting that, the things that we know that, they're just so easy for us that it doesn't occur to us to share them with the world. And I think that's what a book does for you. Get it out, share it with the world.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. Yep. Yeah, that's what makes what I do so much fun, because I get to help other people do that and kind of, live vicariously through them, which is a lot of fun too.
Oh, I bet. Okay, so when people are writing a book, and let's just say for the sake of argument, they're going to do it on their own until they get to a point where they really understand that I've got to have help. I can't go much further on my own. What are maybe some of the writing rituals that you can recommend people do that just say, maybe an hour a day? Or, what would you recommend people do when they're saying, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to tackle it, and I'll get to Rob afterwards?
Yeah.
After I get through chapter 3 and go, well, crap, I can't do this on my own, which will be me.
that happens a lot.
I know.
So, my average client isn't very good with writing rituals. And so that's why they come to us to get hybrid ghostwriting help and that kind of thing. I can describe to you what we do with them, and I can tell you what other people teach. John Maxwell, who is a very prolific author on leadership, he writes every single day, including Christmas Day and New Year's Day. Every day he writes 500 to 1,000 words. So he has his 5 rituals that he does every single day, and that's how he pumps out content. What I have learned, both for myself and for the vast majority of entrepreneurs that I know, is that that's like the 1%. Like 1 out of 100 or more people will ever create content like that. So what we do and
that's
and
almost
teach
an
is,
obsession. That's
well, it is.
not natural.
He's obviously a very disciplined person, but
right.
You asked about rituals, and that's that is a ritual that creates content. I just found it to be unsustainable after one day. I can't get past one day of doing that. So what we recommend to our clients is we have them do one recording a week with their writer, their ghostwriter. And that one recording, that one hybrid ghostwriting session, generally takes about 30 or 40 minutes. It's all, pre-planned and whatnot. And that, one time a week is what most busy entrepreneurs can give. One appointment, call it 1 hour appointment a week to create content. That's the way we do it. That's what works really best. If it's a 12-chapter book, then it's 12 appointments over 12 weeks, sustainable for anybody to be able to do that. So if someone were going to do this on their own, and you're a busy entrepreneur, then that's probably what I would recommend, because that's what we found works really well for us.
And I like that idea, because honestly, you can only focus on things, and I know this because I'm in front of my computer monitors all the time, and I have learned that brain fatigue sets in about 20 minutes. Right about then I realize that I'm my eyes are glazing over. Things are dancing around on the screen. I'm like a yo-yo. I'm up and down all day long. I may take a 5-minute break. I may take a 15-minute break, but I'm constantly re-energizing, because you can't sustain. Sometimes you can if you're intensely creative, but I find that if I'm having to do something like that, about 40 minutes is all I can stand, and my brain just goes, "Ooh, squirrel," and I'm gone.
Yeah, right. Well, I think
is
that's
that
true.
Kind of in the ballpark?
Well, I think that's true, and some people, like myself, may not even have that kind of staying power.
No.
So,
I might be lying by 10 minutes.
That's right. For many people, the whole writing process, typing it out on a computer screen, etc., is problematic. Most of our clients feel more comfortable with speaking it, and that's, I didn't go into details on the hybrid ghostwriting program, and there, it's probably a little too complicated and in depth to do that, but the reality is, speaking your book, speaking your chapter, and using a set process is a lot easier than having to write it, because when you write, you tend to edit as you write, and you never complete things that way. It's very, very challenging. So you have to either already be good at writing to write it, but on the other hand, everybody speaks. So if you have a format to speak, and a format to create your chapter content, which is part of what we do, then it's much more effortless. Now, it needs to be edited afterwards, because the written word and the spoken word are different, and so it needs to be changed.
I was going to mention that. I speak very differently than I write.
That's totally fine.
I sound a lot more intelligent when when I write. I've noticed that.
Well, it depends on how you want to sound, right? What voice you enjoy, because a lot of people are different, right? And they want their book to be a little tongue-in-cheek and maybe to be a little in your face, and all of my authors are different. But, the editing has to be done either way. You can either edit as you go, which just takes forever. And the perfectionist in most people, is never done. What we prefer is to edit at the end, after the content is created. And that we found authors work really well with. And you can edit. You can change from the spoken word to the written word. You can change that. It's not that hard.
So instead of editing chapter by chapter, you edit the whole thing.
Yep.
Makes sense. It really does.
Yeah.
And that way you can see where it flows, where it doesn't make sense.
100%.
That makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yep, 100%.
Excellent. We are we're about 6 minutes away from I told you this is the quickest hour on the web.
Wow, this flew by, didn't it?
It does, because it's always such a great conversation. And, I really am fascinated by your process and how it came to be. Like you said, it's 10 years down the road, but you're offering such a great service, and it sounds like you really, really enjoy it.
It's a lot of fun. We didn't even get into the exciting part, which is the, booking our clients on radio and TV, and helping them get speaking engagements, and like the writing part is the hard part. The fun part is everything that comes after. That's the the becoming an international bestseller and having thousands of sales and downloads and getting speaking in front of 10,000 people, and that's all that's the fun part. We just talked about the hard part.
I know, and I noticed I'm following along with Rich and Lawrence because Bankroll Your Mind, and now looking back on it, I realized that the book just kind of appeared. It was a free download. The next day it was 99 cents, still affordable, and I was like, I got it free. But by then I had already read it, and I had reached out to them, booked them on my show. It's really a good book. Anybody who's listening, Bankroll Your Mind, grab it. It's on Amazon. But and I wrote a review on Amazon. That's another big thing. But then I realized rather belatedly, because we booked them on the show, and I said, look, I've got other people I should introduce you to, and did that. And they went on a couple of fellow podcaster shows. And, that was all well and good. And then all of a sudden, they were all over the map. And I went, now I see what y'all are up to. You wrote the book. Now you're creating this media tour around I understand what's going on. So it's been fascinating to watch. It really has been.
Yeah, that's part of the engineering of it. And that's, in some ways, that's momentary. I mean, I continue to do it. To do PR, radio, TV, podcasts like this. Usually about 3 appearances a month is what I do of one kind or another. But what's really important is to continue to set up ways to use your book to attract clients and close clients. That's
right.
What Rich and Lawrence are doing right now is fun, and they're making some money from it, and they're attracting some attention and some clients. But on an ongoing basis, the next step for them is, okay, let's set up some systems so that, you are the hunted from this point on. And so that's kind of, that's where the real income and impact happen.
Impact, I think that's the important word there. Income is great. Impact is just as important, or maybe more in some cases.
Yeah,
what I wanted to
we like
ask
them
you
both.
real quick. Yeah, I bet. What I wanted to ask you is the difference between becoming an Amazon bestseller and a New York Times bestseller. What are the big differences between those two designations?
Yeah, and that's a common question. First of all, look, New York Times is the top of the food chain in many ways. The problem is that the New York Times, bestseller is a selection committee. It is a curated list, which means that even if you sell more books than someone else on the list, you may never get on the list. And I have, a half dozen friends and acquaintances and people that I've worked with that sold tens of thousands of books in the first month and should have been not only on the New York Times list, but number one, and they weren't even mentioned. And a good example of that, not someone I know personally, but Bill O'Reilly did an episode on Fox News maybe a year or 18 months ago, because he was the number one nonfiction author in the country in his Killing series. Killing Patton was the number one nonfiction book for like all of 2015 or 16. And there were
I've
several
read a lot
times,
of those books. They're great.
I've never read them.
They're good.
I've heard they're good, and obviously they're extremely popular. But the point that I'm making is that there were several weeks where he wasn't even on the New York Times or Wall Street Journal list, and that's because of his political affiliation. The New York Times and New York Times in particular is very left-leaning, and of course he was Fox News and very right-leaning, and so it's a selection committee. And if they want you on it and you only sell 1,000 books, then you're going to be on it. Amazon is not. Amazon's just a pure algorithm. You're a bestseller if you outsell all your competition. So, we only do what we can control, and we know we can make a lot of sales, when we do launches for our clients. And if they become New York Times bestsellers, great, and if they don't, great. It's not going to matter either way.
But they can become bestsellers on Amazon in multiple categories.
And they should, yeah. And through our launch process, not only multiple categories, but multiple countries. We launch in Australia, New Zealand, UK, Canada, the United States, and our clients hit the bestseller list internationally for Amazon. And it leads to a lot of cool things. But you asked specifically about New York Times, and so the
Right.
Times, the Times, if they can get it, man, that would be amazing. But we don't ever worry about it because it really is something out of our control.
And that makes sense. So people don't sniff at being an Amazon bestseller. That's really where you want to be. Rob, we're
Yep.
out of time. Can you believe? Where can people find you on the web?
Best place is bestsellerpublishing.org. That's bestsellerpublishing, like ing.org. And I have a little giveaway if any of your people want it. If they go to bestsellerpublishing.org/giveaway, one word, giveaway. I have a whole PR and speaking engagement course that I've done, and I don't do this all the time, but every now and again when we have a good interview, it might be something that people are interested in. So they can just go to that webpage and they can download it and get all that training for free.
Oh, thank you. I will guess where I'm going as soon as we hang up. I'm heading over there. So I'm going. I would right now, but I don't want to miss anything. So I don't want to just hang up and go. It would be rude. Rob, thank you so much. And as always the case, this podcast hour went much too fast. And I thank you for all the wonderful tips and advice that you've shared with our audience. And I would love to get you back next year sometime to talk about different aspects of getting a book out, if you wouldn't mind.
Why would I mind? I'd love to.
I don't know. But you see, I did that on the radio, so you can't tell me no.
I won't. I'd love to.
Okay, great. Well, listen, today's episode was sponsored by my company, Your Office on the Web. Having a strong online presence is a crucial component of marketing your business, as you've been hearing us talk about it. And as the world continues to evolve, it is important that you evolve with it, and we can help you. Just visit yourofficeontheweb.com or call me at 888-719-6711 for your free business assessment consultation. And be sure to look for us in iTunes. Grab this one, listen to it in your car. There's a lot of important information that you just heard. Look for your Partner in Success Radio on iTunes and take us along on your success journey. Rob, thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Denise. Great being with you.
Thank you.
You can find Denise Griffiths at yourofficeontheweb.com or at gottagovirtualnow.com. Thank you for joining us on your Partner in Success Radio.
What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. By singing dog. By goal.
I pronounce you.
By wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really? Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. By singing dog. By goal.
I pronounce you.
By wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really? Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.